Welcome, my friends, back to Union Smack. The Maniac Matt Tennant here, as always. Unfortunately, Travis couldn't be with us this week. He had other commitments. Real life got in the way. But massive congratulations from everyone on your new job, Travis. I know you're listening. This will be our second omnibus, I guess. Our second big block of NXT UK reviews from the last 4 weeks. We're going from the beginning of Phoenix to the beginning of Coventry. But before we get going, as always, you can find me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can find Travis on Twitter at The Hibiki TMD. You can buy our official shirts, the official Union Smack shirt, the official Hibiki TMD shirt, from our online store, unionsmack.bigcartel.com, where you can also purchase my book, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, and that is also available from amazon.com, amazon.co.uk, and completelynovel.com. So, now all the whorings out the way, we're going to start this week, as per usual, with the news. And as this is an NXT UK special episode, it's only right that we start off with some NXT UK news. For anyone keeping their eye, on the headlines and the tabloids and the internet forums, etc., you'll know there's not been a whole lot of NXT UK news. So what I've got here is probably oldish news, but we've not covered it on Union Smack yet. I was keeping it for this episode. I felt it only right. So we're going to start off with not so much what happened in Coventry, because we're seeing that on the network now, but the news from it that you might not have heard. While in Coventry, WWE announced that NXT UK would be taking to the road again in 2019 for further tapings. We were expecting them. Coventry had nothing to come after it, and we all wondered when and where it would be. Well, now we know. NXT UK will travel to Glasgow to the Braehead Arena on April the 19th and April the 20th. That is very shortly, about, I think, 2 weeks after NXT TakeOver New York, where Pete Dunne will defend the United Kingdom Championship against Walter, of course. A little bit of news coming up on that in a minute. Something I read I found very interesting. After that, they will return to the Download Festival on June 14th, 15th and 16th. So that'll be 3 whole days of tapings at the Download Festival. Interestingly, NXT has been to the Download Festival before, for about 2-3 years running now, and it's always been a good show. They even recorded the first round of the 2018 United Kingdom Championship tournament at the Download Festival, so it's a special setting. It's basically in a tent if you've never seen it before. So we're gonna get a good 6 or 7 weeks of shows from the Download Festival later this year, and then finally they announced they're going back to Plymouth. Back to the Plymouth Pavilions on July the 19th and 20th. And of course, Plymouth Pavilions was the venue for some NXT UK in 2018. I believe it was the second or third, I think, venue they visited for the tapings before it aired on the network. Now, a site I read about the ticket sales, they may have given away a little spoiler for the Pete Dunne Walter match at NXT TakeOver New York. I can't remember what site it was. I should have written it down. It took me 2 minutes. I just didn't think. They were advertising Pete Dunne to appear in Glasgow, which in itself is strange, because if he's going to drop the title at TakeOver New York, then why would he be in Glasgow if he's going to move straight up to NXT or the main roster, as has been discussed? If you've been keeping your eye on the news, you'll know that plans have been discussed to include Pete Dunne as part of the international superstar shakeup after WrestleMania. I can't see Pete Dunne being on NXT anymore if he loses the title. That's my thinking of it. There'll be nothing for him to do. Better to move him straight up. However, this website, speaking on the Glasgow tapings, has said that, and I quote, "The Bruiserweight Pete Dunne will look to defend his NXT UK Championship after facing Walter at NXT TakeOver New York. Now, it's an interesting choice of words. I know arenas and arena websites, etc., they go months in advance to sell tickets and tell you who's going to be there, so you'll buy them. And I know it advertises, sometimes people who are champions who aren't when they get to the arena or get to that particular show. However, the use of the words after facing Walter would suggest that they know something we don't. Otherwise, why say it? Why say he's still going to be champion after facing Walter at TakeOver New York if they don't know something we do? This might just be me clutching at straws. This might just be me, hoping against hope, trying to delay the inevitable pain that's coming my way. But I just thought it was an interesting little thing to mention, and it has given me hope. I won't deny, but we'll get into that later, actually, because something happened at the end of the first Coventry show that made me think that maybe Walter won't be taking the title. Hopefully. On to our next piece of news, and it comes again from Coventry. And it's the last piece of news, actually, because slow news week. Coventry saw some NXT UK debuts during its 2 nights worth of tapings, and the main names that appeared were Ilya Dragunov, Viper, and Kaylee Ray. Kaylee Ray, along with Jazzy Gabbert, was seen in the audience at NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. Viper signed at the same time as them two, but wasn't in the audience in Blackpool. However, Jazzy Gabbert is yet to make her debut. I believe she will appear in Glasgow, so we'll watch out for that next month. Ilya Dragunov defeated Ashton Smith in the dark match. That actually happened before the first Coventry show began recording. And Viper confronted Rhea Ripley, which you'll see in the coming weeks. That looks to be the next long-term feud for Rhea Ripley. I personally would move Rhea Ripley up because what's left for her to do? She's done with Toni Storm. She's not getting the NXT UK Women's Championship back. I would move her up to NXT, not the main roster, for obvious reasons. But I would move her up to NXT because now it seems like she's just treading water. And hopefully for Rhea Ripley, this will just be the last thing she has to do in NXT UK to put Viper over, make her a credible threat, and then move on up. And that's the end of the news this week. I did hope to have more, but at the same time, the show's going to be long enough as it is, and you good people have better things to do. So I will leave you in the capable hands of the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne, and when we come back, we will have our first 2 of 4 NXT UK reviews, and we go back, all the way back actually, to January, to Phoenix, Arizona. We'll be back in a little bit.
Hibiki TMD on YouTube, retro gaming, pro wrestling, podcast, never drew a dime, Hibiki honors, Hibiki quickie, everything in between. Hit that subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at the Hibiki TMD. And hey! Watch out for pedestrians, pal! You on the bike, slow down! Subscribe.
We are back here on Union Smack, and let's do it. Let's get in to NXT UK. Let's jump right into the deep end. Episode 30. We are in Phoenix, Arizona for Royal Rumble weekend. This was recorded at Royal Rumble Access before, after, and also in between the Worlds Collide tournament, which, if you haven't heard our review of, skip back two or three episodes. it's there. It's a great episode. Me and Travis really ripped it apart. So do go and listen to that. I'm sure Travis will drop it in the link or drop it in the eye at the top of the screen. NXT UK episode 30 began in front of a passive crowd, let's say. It was the same crowd who had to sit through Worlds Collide. This episode, however, was recorded before Worlds Collide, so there's no reason for the silence and the disinterest. If you're going to watch a show and you know there's going to be wrestlers on there that you don't know, either make the fucking effort to pretend you do, or just go along with it. Don't just sit there fucking bored. The audience here weren't that bad to begin with. They will get progressively worse through the next 3 episodes. It was something to witness. It was like Lafayette, Louisiana at times. The episode began with NXT UK Women's Champion Toni Storm, who came out in a hot little dress. She's one hot mama. And a leather jacket. She talked about winning the Mae Young Classic, blah-de-blah-de-blah. She says she knows Rhea Ripley wants a rematch. Of course, Ripley never received the rematch after TakeOver Blackpool. And then she says that Rhea Ripley's a bully and she'll kick her ass again. Toni Storm saying ass in her Australian accent is just... It's something all you teenage boys should go back and witness. Of course, this brings out Rhea Ripley. And I'll be honest, during Rhea Ripley's entrance and her subsequent promo, you could hear a pin drop. It was that quiet inside this part of the Access Arena. It was ridiculous. It's like, just react, do something. But they didn't. So, and this was a running theme throughout the Worlds Collide tournament as well. When stars came out people had never heard of, or people just didn't care, they just sat there twiddling their thumbs on their phones. It was like a library. They came out to library silence, some of these people. So, Rhea Ripley says that people should be comparing Toni Storm to her and not the other way round. And she hates Toni Storm. It's not the greatest promo in the world, I'll be honest. It sounded like this was written 5 minutes before she went out to give her something to say. But it set up the rematch. And Toni Storm proceeded to attack Rhea Ripley, which was a nice little swap around from the heel attack in the face. I'll be honest, this segment, the promos, just everything about it just seemed a little off. It seemed a little awkward. The face-to-face was just like two women who had never met before, getting into a confrontation in a bar, not really knowing what to do or say. And for whatever reason, whether it was both of them feeling awkward in front of a crowd who didn't care, or whether it was in fact them actually giving their best performance and the crowd not knowing the story, because I fully fucking believe that this crowd in Phoenix, Arizona didn't watch NXT UK, they didn't see TakeOver Blackpool, and they really didn't know the story behind Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm. Maybe that was it. Maybe. The first match out of the gate was Noam Dar versus Jordan Devlin. Noam Dar, who of course is coming back to NXT UK full-time, apparently. Full-time. However, not quite yet because he is out injured. We will get to that after WrestleMania in the next block of NXT UK recordings, because a major injury happened to Noam Dar in Coventry. The match itself, it was fine. There was a nice aeroplane backslide by Noam Dar. I'll be honest, this match, it was better than any and possibly all of Jordan Devlin's World Collide matches put together. He really put in a good effort here, and it looked like he wanted to impress, as where Worlds Collide, it just looked like he was there to pick up a check and fill a spot on television. There were some nice counters, but however, I'll be honest, it didn't begin to scratch the surface of what either man is capable of. And I actually fully believe, had this been in a Coventry or a Birmingham, a Cambridge, Plymouth, Liverpool, wherever, Blackpool, it would have been 10 times better, and they'd have tore the house down. But again, they could see the crowd wasn't into it. They could see the crowd didn't care, And so why put on your best stuff in front of people who don't deserve it? I wouldn't either. Travis Banks appears to distract Jordan Devlin, continue their little feud, which would come to a head in Coventry. We'll get to that in just a little bit. And Noam Dar wins with a roll-up. I was disappointed with the finish. I was disappointed that Jordan Devlin succumbed to just a roll-up. I felt it should have taken more to put him down. But my God, after all the burial he received in the Worlds Collide tournament, he won the Battle Royal, didn't even make it to the final. Who did Jordan Devlin owe money to in the back that he had to lose this and then have boring and a poor showing in Worlds Collide? I know it's part of the story. I'm not a mark. I know this was part of the story to build him and Travis Banks to their Falls Count Anywhere match in Coventry, but still. Just still. Following the match, Devlin attacks Noam Dar, and then Travis Banks attacks Jordan Devlin. This needs... It's not going to get it, but it needs and needed, now it's over, a huge takeover. A huge takeover. There wasn't one planned, and they couldn't keep this going till August, which is the reason why we got the ending of it in Coventry. Next match up is Ginny versus Mia Yim. Ginny's growing on me as a wrestler, not so much as a personality, but as a wrestler she's growing on me. She's definitely holding something back. She did a very nice Hurricane Rana into a Mia Yim cartwheel. That was very nice, but then the pace of the bout slowed drastically, as all Ginny matches do. She needs to work on the fluidity of the moves in her matches and not start to build it and then cut it stone dead with rest holds. If you're going to do the rest holds, put them in the beginning and then grow a steady pace until the finale. Of course, Mia Yim, you'll know from NXT television if you watch NXT. Why wouldn't you? It's the best thing about WWE right now. She's strong, she's agile, but of course, if you're laying under Keith Lee every night, then you have to be durable at least. Just like a lot of wrestlers who appeared here and a lot of matches and storylines and angles, etc., you could swear that the audience didn't know who Ginny were. They didn't care who Ginny were, and that was fine. She's ours, she's not America's. It's unlikely she ever will be. And she wins with feet on the ropes, basically. She kicks Mia Yim in the head as she comes through the ropes. Feet on the ropes, 1, 2, 3, done. And that brings us to the main event of the episode. Pete Dunne versus Wolfgang for the United Kingdom Championship. And it still bugs me. It still bugs me why they're pushing Wolfgang in a main event role. I know he's part of Gallus. And this was obviously a short continuation of Gallus versus Pete Dunne. Joe Coffey trying to wrestle the title away from Dunne at Blackpool didn't work. But that storyline was done weeks ago. That storyline ended and Gallus became a mid-card act when Walter made his debut. NXT UK made that very clear. So why they expected us to believe that Wolfgang was this main event star suddenly, it baffles me. Maybe he is in America. If Travis was here right now, I'd ask him if people in America see Wolfgang as a main event star or if he carries that aura over here. But he certainly doesn't in Britain. He's a mid-card act at best now. And that's a shame. That is NXT UK's fault for not capitalising on the popularity that he came into the first tournament with in 2017. Match itself, it was fine. There was nothing drastically wrong with it. But then it was Pete Dunne, so of course there wouldn't be anything wrong with it. Both men have had better matches with each other. Go to ICW, go to any indie promotion they've both been in at the same time, and you'll find a match between the two of them. Their match on NXT television shortly after Dunne won the title in 2017, I prefer to this. However, they did a job. They filled a main event. Some good back and forth. There was a good second rope drop kick to Wolfgang's knee, I believe. The howling into the armbar was nice. And Dunne wins by submission with the wishbone finger snap. Very fluid end. Thankfully, it wasn't a flat end. For me, Wolfgang as a mid-card talent got too much offense in. Way too much offense in. As an episode 30 was fine. It wasn't brilliant. Like I say, the Tony Storm Rhea Ripley thing really threw people off, and it was an odd way to begin. But match-wise, decent. Nothing to grumble about, really. And that took us on to NXT UK Episode 31, which began with a highlight package of Blackpool. The people at Access didn't see this. It was just match after match after match for them, like it is in most television tapings. You don't really see what they recorded earlier in the day or what they're going to put out on the episode when it airs. The video package basically covered Rhea Ripley losing the title to Toni Storm, then her demanding her rematch from Saint and Scala, and then it picked up and ended with the promo from, the face-to-face, I should say, from episode 30. First match out of the blocks was Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster versus the Coffey Brothers, and have we not seen this enough? Have we not seen this match in its different variations enough at the beginning of NXT UK's life? It was all we saw for 4 or 5 or 6 maybe episodes. Gallus versus Mark Andrews, and then Flash Morgan Webster got involved, and then it was Gallus versus Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster, and then Ashton Smith got involved, and we got that 6-man. And it tires after a while. And I understand that the crowd in Phoenix probably wouldn't have had a clue that this was NXT UK's first massive feud, first long-running feud. But at the same time, don't put the show on specifically for them, because they've not come to specifically see NXT UK. They came to see Worlds Collide and got NXT UK as a little extra on the side. Do it for the people who actually watch week in and week out and who actually support and love NXT UK. It just, again, baffles me. Just one of them things that baffles me in wrestling. Anyway, Flash Morgan Webster gets a really good reception. They didn't know who he was. Honestly, you could tell. He was just arguably, apart from Pete Dunne, one of the most flamboyant people there in Titantron and dress. And the lackluster crowd, they ate him up for whatever reason. This, however, is, to my certain knowledge, and I have been through NXT UK again from episode 1 onwards to write my new book, which will be out in October, detailing the first year of NXT UK. Cheap plug there. Mick Foley would be proud. This is the first time we've seen the Coffey Brothers team together and perform in a tag team, just the two of them, without Wolfgang involved. So that was a nice little bit to see. The match dragged in the middle with Joe Coffey and Mark Andrews, which is surprising. Flash Morgan Webster botched a springboard dropkick for some reason, and it's not the first time he's done that. He did that on episode 1, 2 or 3. I remember writing about it. If you can't do it, cut it out your arsenal, because it looks absolute dog shit when you screw it up. Honestly, it's not pretty viewing at all. The match picked up nicely towards the end. There was a very nice assisting swing DDT by Andrews and Webster, but the Coffeys win with Joe Coffey's All the Best for the Bells lariat. It suffered from the setting, but the result was right. You know, Gallus are now a mid-card act, and they really do need more victories if they're going to be placed in a role where they're going for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. Which, I have to add, by the way, the NXT UK Tag Team division is now shaping up quite nicely. You've got grizzled young veterans, who are the champions, of course. You've got Mustache Mountain, who are by far and away the most popular tag team in NXT UK, arguably in the whole of WWE. Then you've got Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan, who seem to be picking up a good pace. Then you've got the Coffee Brothers, and I'm sure you've got more teams that I haven't included here. It's shaping up to be a pretty strong division. And if we're going to get another TakeOver UK in August, around summertime, then I would very much love to see a Fatal 4-Way tag team match with them four involved. I've also forgot Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, who are another strong team, so options are absolutely endless. However, only two of them teams are babyface at the minute, which could prove to be a problem. We got a vignette for Nina Samuels, or more accurately, the Nina Samuels show. It's fine, hyping her like this, but if you're going to do it, if you're going to put money into it, then you need to use her properly. You need to push her. We've not seen the best of Nina Samuels so far. She's lost every match she's fought, two of them to Isla Dawn. So if you're going to put the machine behind her, then do so properly. More on her to come later in the podcast. We get a little Jordan Devlin vignette from his hometown of Bray County, Wicklow Island, and he is walking across possibly the shittiest looking beach I've ever seen. What sort of beaches do you have in Ireland? It looked like a war zone. And that's not me being stereotypical about Irish. It looked like an absolute war zone. I wouldn't want to be seen on that beach in the day or in the night. Thank you very much. Not without body armour on, anyway. And I've got some people on Twitter from Ireland that I'm friends with. So, you know. He basically says that he's got a message for Travis Banks and he's not finished with him yet. That is actually good news, because the feud for me, with the exception of the shitty double count out, which we mentioned on our last omnibus of reviews, it's been very good. I've enjoyed it very much. Another vignette aired for Kaylee Ray. I can't get the thought, image or idea out of my head that this woman, she's 26 years old, by the way, and I've seen her several times across the Indies and in World of Sport. She's a great wrestler, wonderful in the ring. She'll lighten up the UK women's division and strengthen it leaps and bounds. However, at 26 years old, and she's from Scotland, she looks like that average Scottish drunk who lives on a council estate in the middle of Glasgow. And I don't know why. At 26 years old, you shouldn't look that old in the face. You've made some bad life choices if you do. So we'll see how she progresses in NXT UK. But I just can't get her face out of my head. It's not a sight you want to behold. Trent Seven versus Shane Thorne is next. And I'm not going to spend too long talking about this match because no one cares. Thorne came out to library silence again. It was fine, but it's nothing very interesting at all. It got better in the last few minutes. Nice reverse figure 4 by Shane Thorne, who rolled out and it hurt Trent Seven's knee, blah de blah, played to the knee injury that keeps getting re-aggravated. I think this is definitely the definition of a match for match sakes. And Trent Seven wins with the 7-star lariat. It was a very tame ending and a pointless match. It just went on just to maybe liven up the crowd. But honestly, it didn't even do that. It was nothing of interest. Jack Gallagher, or Gallagher, however you prefer to pronounce it, is interviewed next. He's asked if he's got any intentions to come back to NXT UK. And he says he'll pose it to Johnny Saint and they'll talk about some things. Just sign this man. I've heard numerous rumours that 205 Live is going down the drain, that it is going to be axed shortly after WrestleMania. If true, bring him back to the UK. They're never going to use him properly on the main roster, and NXT UK really could do with his skills. I know it's got a wealth of talent on its roster at the minute, but fuck it. What have you got to lose by bringing Jack Gallagher in? We get treated to the most boring man on the face of the universe, Joseph Connors, who is in the UK Performance Centre in London. which does look beautiful on second glance. When they had the press conference before Blackpool in it, it looked like an air raid shelter with a ring in. But on further inspection, it looks absolutely lovely. He says that last time him and Ligero met, Ligero caught him on an off day, and he wants to show Ligero that he's better than him. And he's so fucking boring. So he could put you to sleep just by fucking talking to you. Honestly, if you're and I say this every time I review anything Joseph Connors wise, if you're having trouble sleeping, just put on, a string of his matches. You'll soon be off to the land of Nod. As if we didn't have enough talking on this episode already, Grizzled Young Veterans are out next. Not for any purpose, just to set up their match with Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, which in Blackpool we were told would happen in Phoenix. There was a nice moment where Gibson called the American crowd ignorant Yanks. I just feel like Zach Gibson promos now are all the same. He says they are the best competition, yada yada yada. Very little reaction. And it was odd to go from seeing people taking their shoes off and just booing him so loudly you could barely hear what he's saying, just to him speaking like he's sitting in his front room. No one cared. Thanks, America. Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan came out to interrupt. They did get a good reaction because of their ties to NXT. Burch says he's proud to represent the American NXT and says they're not going to wait. They charge down to the ring to fight Gibson and Drake, but the Grizzled Young Veterans bail. The main event of the episode sees Toni Storm versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT UK Women's Championship, a rematch from Blackpool. And I'll be honest with you, there is something wrong with their matches. Separately, they're great in the ring. Absolutely wonderful. Together, I just don't see the chemistry. I really don't. Their first match for the title, it was fine. It was hampered by Toni Storm's back injury. Couldn't help that. The match at Blackpool wasn't outstanding at all. This match here, a little bit better than Blackpool. This should have been 4.5 stars, but it was just another let's get it over with match. Honestly, it really was. Very, very scruffy for the first few minutes. I mean, you can't ignore Rhea Ripley's heel work, but tighten up your in-ring work, seriously, because this wasn't good enough. Tony went on the defence for what seemed like an age. When Rhea Ripley had her in the reverse cloverleaf, it was very, very weird to see all of Toni Storm's black roots just fall forward. I mean, just dye them. I know you like... She's got her hair, dyed several different colours, but it seems like now she's only dyed it on the surface and left it below all black. It looked very, very... In fact, it looked like a different woman while she was in that hold. Like I said, it's a little bit better than Blackpool. It got quite dramatic towards the end, and of course Toni Storm retains with the Storm Zero. I would have liked more of a comeback. The end felt flat. It probably could have done with a few more reversals that led into the Storm Zero, but it was what it was. It moved Toni Storm on. It moved Rhea Ripley on, and the other gripe I had with it is that it took only one Storm Zero to beat Rhea Ripley, when at Blackpool I think it took 2, maybe 3. So yeah, there was a little gripe with that. As an episode, overall, I mean, what can you say? The tag match to open was fine, if nothing special. Trent versus Thorne was completely pointless, but it held up decently, I suppose. And the main event was... It bordered, I'd say, on 3.5 stars. So, as an episode, 31, I think is worth checking out if you've got time, but obviously don't go out your way to watch it. When we come back after this short break, I'm going to have a drink, refresh my voice. We will get into the last 2 reviews of this marathon episode, 32 and 33. That is when we come back after this.
I'm the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne, and you're listening to the Union Smack Podcast.
And we are back. NXT UK Episode 32 kicked off with Tyler Bate versus Jack Gallagher. I remember talking to Travis about this when we recorded the No Way Out 2003 review. He wasn't such a fan of it. I can't remember the reasons why. I don't think he liked some of the mat work. I'm sure he'll tell us when he hopefully joins us for the next mammoth block of recordings. I liked it, I'll be honest. I liked the mat work. I liked the transitions, the move for move out of this one into this one. It very much reminded me of old English wrestling. The Johnny Saints, the William Regals, the Dave Taylors. Very, very... I would recommend this, actually, to anyone who misses those times and those styles and those matches. Definitely one for you. Like most things on these shows, and thank God this was the last one from Phoenix as well, because the crowd were absolutely killing me. Absolutely killing me here. Would have gotten a better reaction had this been in front of a UK crowd. They'd have appreciated it much more. And those fucking annoying women were back that we talked about in the Worlds Collide tournament, who sat at ringside shouting "Big Strong Boy" in an American accent, and it sounded wrong, and it annoyed the shit out of me. Something else I noticed as well during this was that you could hear the Royal Rumble Access crowd doing their shopping and walking around in the background. It was very, very distracting. Did not like that at all. As to the match, like I said, very good. So there was a good series of rolling pinfalls that I think got the crowd back into it quite well. And Tyler Bate wins with a roll-up. Very flat ending. This should have been 5 minutes longer. And like Tony Storm versus Rhea Ripley in the last part, should have featured reversal Tyler Driver. That is how it should have ended. I don't like the flat endings. I don't like it when they come out of nowhere. I'm not a fan of that. You have to earn the ending. It has to be built right. I do hope Jack Gallagher, however, comes to NXT UK full time. I would like to see him do something with his WWE career other than just waste it. We're taken back to the Performance Centre from what's meant to be earlier that week, where Jordan Devlin attacks Travis Banks during a drill. Very, very nice little segment. Again, building towards their Falls Count Anywhere match in episode 32. Walter video package aired. Didn't do anything for me. Or him, to be honest. It was just a lot of chops. There wasn't anything that I really remember from his independent matches on there. It was just all his WWE matches. The two he's had from Blackpool. Not what can you get out of that? Seriously, grow the fuck up. Another Nina Samuel show video package airs, and like I said before, if they're going to use her properly, great. If not, then pointless. We get Eddie Dennis in the UK Performance Centre. He talks about when he ruptured his pectoral muscle before in 2018 and what's next for him after TakeOver. He tells us that when he returns, he'll take down the roster one by one. It's not going to work for Eddie Dennis. I'm sorry, all Eddie Dennis fans, but he's a good enough talent, but he's lost in the shuffle right now. He's absolutely lost in the shuffle. I don't recall him being part of the Coventry tapings at all, which means by the time he returns to NXT UK television, it'll be the Glasgow tapings, which we won't see till May, end of April, May time. Which means it will have been 4 months since we last saw Eddie Dennis on NXT UK television. There's just nothing for him. After the Dave Mastiff feud, there's nothing for him. And I talk about it in the book, how they messed him up and how they should have immediately put him in a feud with Mark Andrews and then Pete Dunne after his debut, but just didn't happen. And it's not going to happen for Eddie Dennis now, sadly. Walter versus Cassius Ohno was next. Walter good reception from the American crowd, I should say. It bodes well for his appearance at TakeOver New York. Cassius Ohno, he looks more of a fat fucking slob every week, this bloke. Did no one ever ask him to get into a gym, to go on a diet? Not that he should be asked. He's being paid to turn up and look, his best possible self. And he just looks like a dirty fat slob. Great wrestler, but smarten yourself up, for Christ's sake. I did like Nigel McGuinness's comparison of a young Andre the Giant for Walter, because, Pete Dunne is the British Hulk Hogan. So basically that's what we're getting at TakeOver. We're getting a British/European version of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Please be the fucking same result. It's fine for a big man match. But is this really your next UK champion? Really? And I know a lot of people are sitting there going, yes it is. Walter's amazing. But he's not. Dull main event scene this is going to be if it happens. I can't even imagine how terrible the NXT UK main event scene will be if Walter takes that title. Unless he's a monster heel, which isn't going to happen before TakeOver. I've seen the taping results. It doesn't happen. He's not going to sell tickets like Pete Dunne. That's it. That is the end of the story. Walter wins with his powerbomb. And, anyone but Walter. Anyone but Walter. We get another vignette of Ligero in the Performance Centre. He basically calls out Joseph Connors here. We've told it'll be on episode 33. But come on, did this really need to happen again? We've seen Connors and Ligero once. It didn't blow me away. It didn't blow anyone away. Not that any Joseph Connors match ever does. And so they give us it again. I truly believe that NXT UK are starting to run out of ideas. They're starting to repeat matches. They're starting to put people on in spots they've failed in before. And I'm worried that, a few months into its life, it's already starting to run out of steam. Fingers crossed that it hasn't. The main event of the evening is Grizzled Young Veterans versus Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. It's a slow start. There's a lot of work on Lorcan to set up the hot tag to Burch, which is fine. I like hot tags. Grizzled Young Veterans are just a marvellous team. If you saw them at TakeOver, you'll know how good they are. Danny Burch, my homie, my man, Danny Burch, so impressive. He gives the match all the pace it needs after a long stretch of work on Lorcan. Ticket to Ride from the second rope was great by Zach Gibson. The timing on it, this man should be the next UK champion, arguably, or Jordan Devlin. But he's stuck in the tag team ranks at the minute. Why you'd push Walter over someone like Zach Gibson is beyond me. There's a wonderful double blockbuster by Lorcan. Gibson breaks up a pin by throwing Lorcan onto Danny Burch. That's a great little moment there. And I loved the bit where only Lorcan and Zach Gibson had the other person's respective partner in the finishing moves, and they were just face to face and slapping each other. That was a really, really, really good moment there. Grizzled Young Veterans win with a ticket to Mayhem. And what can I say? Apart from James Drake actually quite impressed me. And he has been impressing me for, I'd say about 3 months now. Ever since Grizzled Young Veterans, got together at Blackpool, impressed me. He's a much better tag team wrestler than he is a single star. As for the episode, I wouldn't go out of your way to watch this one. If you haven't seen it, skip it. You don't really need to. Bate versus Gallagher, very good. Apart from that, the tag team match held up very well. If you are gonna go back and watch this episode, miss out the Walter Cassius Ohno match. It does nothing for anyone. Only it fills up 6 minutes of your time, maybe. Watch the opener. Watch the main event. Everything else in between, you can skip. And that brings us to our last episode of this omnibus, this marathon. NXT UK Episode 33. The first episode from the Sky Dome in Coventry. Very nice building from the outside. I've stood outside it several times when I've been in Coventry before. Very nice. The inside doesn't look so great. This show, coincidentally, was produced. In fact, the whole 2 nights was produced by Jeff Jarrett, who served as producer on the show. Triple H wasn't present. Shawn Michaels wasn't present. They were both at Ric Flair's birthday bash. Not the Raw birthday bash, his real life birthday bash party, whatever you prefer to call it. So Jeff Jarrett, who was shown in the audience during this episode, he booked this, he produced it, and I have to say, very, very impressed. The episode begins with a recap of the Travis Banks and Jordan Devlin feud. It starts in Blackpool with Jordan Devlin attacking Travis Banks before their scheduled match on pay-per-view, and then from the taping the night after, the match which ended in the double count out. Then it moved on to the attack at World Collide, the attack at the UK taping in Phoenix, and then Jordan Devlin's attack on Travis Banks at the UK Performance Centre. Very well done promo. Built the Falls Count Anywhere match that would main event this episode very, very well. The action kicked off with Ligero versus Joseph Connors. Before we get a promo from both men, I believe, to my certain memory, it was the same promo they gave in the weeks before to build this up. So nothing of note there. Match-wise, I mean, it was okay. It depends on your preference for Joseph Connors and Ligero. We've seen this once, didn't need to see it again. The only thing Joseph Connors brought to this match was the slingshot DDT and that facebuster pile driver that he did, which admittedly looked good. Apart from that, so boring. Such a boring man who does nothing of note in the ring. He's not going anywhere. He slows about right down to the point where it almost comes to a stop, and this one did several times. Ligero tried his best to keep this going, but they've been giving Ligero the wrong opponents now for God knows how long. At least since November, television-wise. He needs someone who complements his pace, not slows it down or, hinders it. Which Joseph Connors did, and the fans reacted to that. The fans were dead for huge portions of this bout. Huge portions of the bout. Ligero won with the crucifix roll-up pin. Connors refused a handshake afterwards. I have no idea what they're doing with him. I have no idea what they're doing with Joseph Connors right now. I appreciate the efforts to give him a character and to maybe make him relevant, but surely after all this time you can see that they are clever enough to see that this man is going nowhere and no one cares about him. Surely. We get a Toni Storm interview from earlier in the day where she says she is done with Rhea Ripley and wishes the division luck coming after her. As she walks off of camera, we see Ginny watching from behind. That is clearly going to be Toni Storm's next big rivalry, her versus Ginny. I am excited for it. If you've ever seen... I don't know why I went all Cornish then. If you've ever seen... No, if you've ever seen the pair do battle in Progress Wrestling over the Progress Women's Championship, there is a lot to be excited about. So, fingers crossed, this is what pushes Ginny up to the next level. We get a vignette for the new team of Wild Boar Mike Hitchman and Primate Jay Melrose. Jay Melrose, another one of those who signed a full-time... Well, not a full-time, but signed a NXT UK contract recently. We're informed they'll be coming in 2 weeks, and their new name will be The Hunt. Yeah, I see why. Primate, Wild Boar, The Hunt. It goes together well. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be taken seriously in the tag team division, just like Hitchman hasn't been taken seriously at all, really, since he came into NXT UK, which is a shame because he's one of the more talented wrestlers on the roster. Gallus are shown backstage in an awkward little WWE.com exclusive. They talk about that they're not there to be disrespected, and then they call out Walter and Pete Dunne and say that they're both on the menu, and this is still their kingdom. It's not. They need to come up with something different for them. They really do, because having Joe Coffey come out week in and week out, now he's dropped down the card, and now he's not a contender for the United Kingdom Championship anymore. To have him still say this is their kingdom, it's erroneous. It means nothing, and it's making them look stupid. And Gallus are still one of the, even though they're a mid-card act, they're still one of the top heels in NXT UK. So, give them something better. We get Radzi, the delights of Radzi, who catches up with Walter as he's entering the arena. He asks him on his thoughts of what Joe Coffey's just said, and of course Walter refuses to talk or do anything of any note in a wrestling ring in Great Britain. Stoker and Howley versus Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel is up next. Good squash match here. I'm not usually in favour of squash matches. I've panned a lot of them while writing this new NXT UK book. But do you know what? This was very entertaining thanks to Eichner and Barthel. They mauled Stokely and Howley stylishly. And I will just say that Stokely and Howley, they look like a British Deuce and Domino. That's the effect they have on you. There was a very interesting minute here where Eichner botched the catch suplex. You know, the spot where Barthel throws them from the rope into Eichner and he catches them in the suplex and then drops them with a brainbuster. Botched that completely. He had to cover it up with a slam. And they win with the powerbomb diving back elbow combo. There was a nice little moment where Fabian Eichner forgot he wasn't the legal man and tried to cover. I don't know whether it was Stokely or Howley. And the ref had to tell him to get out. So, very good squash match there. We got a Nina Samuels promo and a Kaylee Ray vignette after that. And then we got Charlie Morgan versus Nina Samuels. I'm growing towards Nina Samuels as a performer. She hasn't shown us much, if arguably anything, over the last few months. Mainly because she's been booked in squash matches against people like Toni Storm and Isla Dawn to push them up the card. But now Toni Storm needs challengers, and credible challengers at that. She's going to be champion for a long time, Toni Storm. I think Nina Samuels, with the right investment and the right booking, she could be a top heel in the division. You don't see it now because she's done nothing and been given nothing to do. But I think months down the line, as we approach September, October time, I think she could be a real shoo-in for number one contender. Charlie Morgan, on the other hand, jobber. No two ways about this. Absolutely no two ways about it. There's no star quality in the woman at all. She's the Tucker of the women's division. That's Charlie Morgan's role. Nina Samuels wins this with a fireman carry into a neck breaker or an ushigoroshi, whatever you prefer to call it. It was a fine match, nothing spectacular. But hopefully this is Nina Samuels now being used correctly. Pete Dunne is at the UK Performance Centre and he is asked if he and Walter can coexist against Gallus. Dunne says that it doesn't matter and he'll make sure that the next time Gallus meet him in the ring, it'll be the last, whether Walter's there or not. We get a shot at Johnny Saint's Twitter page, which he doesn't write himself. Don't be fooled that he does. And he officially announces the Coffeys versus Walter and Pete Dunne for episode 34. Jeff Jarrett is seen in the audience. We've already gone through the fact that he was a producer on this show. Good reception, I should say, for Jeff Jarrett. And our main event, Travis Banks, Jordan Devlin, Falls Count Anywhere. This was absolutely spectacular. I loved every minute of this. Every minute of this. And this is arguably the best Jordan Devlin has looked since that UK title match with Pete Dunne at the arse end of 2018. It starts immediately, this match. They battle in the aisle. Travis Banks attacks Jordan Devlin head on. They fight into the crowd. They fight up the balcony. Jordan Devlin falls from the balcony. Wonderful little spot. Travis Banks' dive is even better. You have to see that if you haven't already. It's nice to see them go into the crowd and explore a bit, because they were some of my favourite parts of hardcore matches in the Attitude Era, where they went all around the arena. You know, one of my fondest Attitude Era memories is Al Snow and Hardcore Holly fighting into the Mississippi River at St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Used to love their matches. You could tell this was a Jeff Jarrett produced match. This looked more like a TNA / Impact brawl than anything since the beginning of NXT UK, but in a good way. The "your head's too big for you" chants at Jordan Devlin were very amusing. Arguably, as this was a Falls Count Anywhere match and, based around the hardcore theme, the $1 Million Dream by Jordan Devlin in the middle of this, it looked out of place. However, it got better because legitimate drama when Drake Wirtz, the referee, was knocked out. Travis Banks nailed Jordan Devlin with a fucking hellish Kiwi crusher. How he didn't break his neck, I'll never know. And of course, the ref couldn't count because he was knocked out. You knew where this match was going as soon as Travis Banks set up the table at ringside. You knew someone, i.e. he, was going through it. The superplex from the top rope into the Kiwi crusher, wonderful, if a shameless piece of no-selling by Travis Banks. For some reason, the crowd died towards the end of this. When, after the near fall on the Kiwi crusher from the superplex, the crowd just seemed to die a death. When they were fighting in the aisle in the final bit and outside the ring, there was just no real reaction for some reason. And Jordan Devlin wins with a Spanish fly from the apron through the table at ringside. Great spot. I have no idea where Travis Banks goes from here, looking at the NXT UK roster. I'm sure they'll find a place for him, but there's only one place for Jordan Devlin to go now. And surely Jordan Devlin is the man to beat Pete Dunne for the United Kingdom Championship. Surely. It's literally the only thing left for him now after this. You can't keep, booking him in meandering mid-card feuds and then expecting that to be enough. Jordan Devlin needs to take the next step. And that next step is the United Kingdom Champion. And I can't think of a better person to be United Kingdom Champion after Pete Dunne than an Irishman who can take the title, who can tease rebranding it the NXT Ireland Championship or whatever. Because everyone knows how, the animosity between the Brits and the Irish. So to have an Irishman as UK champion would be absolutely perfect. And all the stuff that could come out of that storyline wise would be amazing. And that is all we have this week. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know these marathon episodes where we go through 4 shows at once are never easy to take in. They're never easy to digest. But God bless you for sticking with me. This will be the last block of NXT UK reviews before WrestleMania, before Pete Dunne defends the title against Walter at TakeOver. I think if it works out right, me and Travis will be back with you with the next set of NXT UK reviews the week after WrestleMania. Maybe. Sometime around there anyway, where we'll go through the rest of the Coventry shows and obviously the build-up to TakeOver. And the match at TakeOver itself, we'll discuss in great detail. I may be very pissed off if Pete Dunne loses the title, so just be warned. Apart from that, thank you very, very much indeed for listening. Me and Travis will be back next week with our retro review of WCW Wrestle War 90. So do look out for that. Especially if you like tag team action, it's the pay-per-view for you. Until then, you can find me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can find Travis on Twitter at The Hibiki TMD. You can buy our official Union Smack shirts, 2 of them. The official Hibiki TMD shirt and our Union Smack bobble hat, which is only available to the end of March, from unionsmack.bigcartel.com, where you'll also be able to purchase my book, The Undertaker: A Trip Down Death Valley. And that's it. Subscribe to the channel. Obviously, give Travis your support. Deserves it with all the fantastic content he comes out with. The video games, the reviews, the reset button, Hibiki Pro, Hibiki Live, Hibiki Quickie, everything else he does. Sunset Stripped with Jenna. Listen to them all, enjoy them all, subscribe them all. And until next week, until next time, thank you very, very much for listening. Cheerio, mates.
you.